start the show.
For Thursday, February 22nd, 2018. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode. Hope everyone is doing well. As if you're watching the video, you can see the lights behind us are working again. We're not in spoiler territory, but we're going to talk about our top story this week, and that is the release of Black Panther. Who here has seen Black Panther contributed to its record-breaking opening?
I have.
Kishore? Jeremy Williams?
66% of us.
Oh, okay. Well, there's room to contribute to week two, just like in Still Untitled.
To be fair, you are going to go see this movie.
Of course, yes, I'm excited to see this movie. It's just that there were, as you've heard, lines. And my son, who I have to see Marvel films with, doesn't like the lines. Nothing I can do about that. Except, I mean, I could have looked ahead. I could have gotten a reserved seat. But those are all long gone.
How was your viewing experience before we get into the actual film?
Oh, I did. I bought tickets a week before, and I did the trick that we use, matinee showings. So, I'm ashamed to say I no longer do Thursday midnight showings. I think my last Thursday midnight showing might have been, this will date me, Indiana Jones, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
That movie doesn't exist.
I probably have done one.
They show movies on Thursday not at midnight anymore. They show them at like 7 o'clock.
Yeah. But back in the day, back 10 years ago, it was that, to get the first showing was going to always be midnight Thursday night between Thursday and Friday. And I know they do the Thursday evening ones, and I've done a couple of those, especially if they do like preview screenings or something, and we'll jump at those. But for Black Panther, those are always sold out. I didn't buy them months in advance. But the trick is you could always get matinee showings, and if you do one for Saturday morning, you will probably get a good seat even if you buy like 6 days in advance. So, and it's cheaper. It's much cheaper. So I did, Cinemark XD, recliner seats, 2D, and got decent seats.
What did you think?
Of the movie?
Yeah. Not of the ticket buying experience.
Thumbs up. It's tough to talk about this movie, and I think the movie is still so fresh, even though so many people have seen it so far, that we're not going to talk about spoilers today.
No spoilers.
Just like on Still Untitled, we're not going to talk about spoilers, especially since, Jeremy, you haven't seen it.
I appreciate that.
I will say that the movie, last week we talked about how excited we were, or at least I was, that this movie was going to show to the world the glory and the awesome story, the world building of Wakanda, and it 100% fulfilled on that.
Totally.
But what I didn't expect was the emotional impact of the film, the how great a villain the film would be, and these it almost reminded me of a Pixar movie, in that Pixar movies strike a chord with these universal emotions and these universal truths that we all relate to, and whether it's a feeling of the father and the child, parent and child, personal insecurity, all these things. And this movie did that in a way that I don't know a Marvel movie has done yet.
Wow.
It wasn't just fun, explosive, action-packed, and, a thrill ride through and through. It struck this emotional chord, especially at the end. It nailed the landing so hard that I choked up. I cried at the end.
I agree with most everything you say. It definitely had an emotional impact. I think this might be the best villain they've ever had. And the reason it's the best villain isn't that he was scarier or anything. He was the most relatable villain Marvel's had.
He was the most believable,
yes,
human, real world villain.
100%. I also I have a couple very minor criticisms. For a movie named Black Panther, I feel like we got shorted on Black Panther.
Oh my.
A little bit. Like, I think that's
Really?
the one thing that was missing.
Wow,
think,
you're the Rotten Tomatoes reviewer. It said not enough bad guys being punched.
No. I love this film, but it was that I don't think we got enough T'Challa. I didn't think we got enough development of T'Challa in this movie.
I think you need to watch it a second time because I felt like we got a lot of T'Challa.
Well,
I felt like he shared the screen well, and the characters shared the screen. So maybe in the fact that it wasn't just this lone hero, it wasn't Iron Man.
Yeah, this movie wasn't about him.
Yeah.
It was about like the whole ensemble of people around him.
Were you satisfied by the amount or lack of other Avengers in this film?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The worst part of this movie is the stinger at the end, the post credits.
That's the worst because I heard that was good.
It was good.
The second post
That's
credits.
the worst thing in this movie.
Oh, yeah,
that
there you
tells
go.
you something about this movie.
It's a movie that I left feeling sad that it wasn't real.
Oh, like Ready Player One.
No. Like I walked out feeling so like it was so good. I walked out, I'm like, wow, I wish that was a real place, and I wish those people were real.
There was this awesome thing that I found online that's sort of making its rounds called Shadow and Act, where they have directors come in and sort of draw on scenes. Like they play scenes of the movie on like a plasma screen, and the director of the film comes and sort of diagrams different choices they've made. And Ryan Coogler did this for a scene in Black Panther, the casino scene that's in the trailer. And it was fascinating seeing the intricacies of the choices that they made. So that casino scene, which is in the trailer, he talked about costume choices, like symbolism in the costume, how the three characters in that casino scene, the heroes, one's wearing red, one's wearing green, one's wearing black, symbolizing an African flag. And just like how just detail oriented he was about drawing symbolism throughout the movie. I was really deeply impressed with that level of detail and authenticity that he brought to this film. Gosh, he's made exceptional movies. Fruitvale Station is a real hard, great watch. Creed, probably one of the most underrated movies of that year.
Yep.
I can't wait to see what he does next because this was a triumph for him.
Did you like Creed?
Haven't seen it.
Oh, you got to watch Creed.
Creed is great.
Oh, do some homework. Watch. Did you like any of the Rocky movies?
Yeah, of course.
If you like the Rocky movies,
You like not Rocky 4. If you like Rocky 4, the Creed is
not
probably
Rocky 6.
Yeah, Rocky. Yeah, okay.
Not Rocky 6. That's the one we can all forget. Watch. Wait. Which one's Rocky 6? Hold on. That's like I'm getting my Rockies. There are too many of them.
There's too many.
So
if you
many of them.
if you like the original Rocky,
I like
you'll
Rocky Balboa. The one with the Tommy
Creed.
Gunn. That's the one we want to forget. You'll love Creed, and I think watching Creed is actually a really great setup to watch Black Panther because Creed allows Michael B. Jordan to show some great acting chops and huge emotional depth that I think gets carried over as an actor into Black Panther.
You know, the last thing I'll say about this movie, it didn't try to accomplish a lot. It didn't set out with this like lofty, the world is going to end kind of plot line. I appreciate
That's a really good point. Yeah,
I really appreciated that.
Well, no, I mean there was some world stakes.
There has to be something at stake, but there isn't this. There wasn't the same level of stakes that felt like Marvel's been one-upping the stakes every time. It's like, oh, New York City is in danger. Oh no, the world is in danger. Oh no, the universe is in danger. This took a step back from that I really appreciate.
And while there were like the world-ending kind of stakes that were ostensibly there, they were MacGuffins. They weren't the emotional core or even the climactic part of the movie. One thing I want to be cognizant of, and it's something like I when I walked out the movie, I'm like, I want to champion this film, and we are championing this film. I want to tell people how much I like it, but it's also like kind of how I feel like when I walk when I hear someone say they loved Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, like who's not Asian.
Meaning, you won't.
I'm not.
You can't fully tap into what that experience
exactly.
means.
And so it's
for
not
the
for
people.
me. Like I'm going to point people to the other people who can really who I think Like, there are lots of people who have great things to say about Black Panther who I think you should read. I'm not going to contribute that much. I will say I liked it, and I think I will wholeheartedly recommend it, but I don't have that much to say about it.
It's not that hard to find incredible stories of African American filmmakers and directors, not just associated with this movie, talking about the experience of watching this movie and about how the representation, the symbolism, the craft that went into this meant a lot to them.
And
so
read
there's
and hear
lots of
what
stories
they
about
have
that.
to say.
All that being said, I appreciate this. Like, I'm coming at this as a comic book fan, one that's read recent Black Panther series like World of Wakanda and the Coates run. This was a triumph.
Were you happy with the amount of or lack of Infinity Stones?
I
So that's a loaded question.
I cannot comment on this for your benefit.
Do we need to have spoiler?
I cannot
spoiler
comment on this safely for Jeremy's
Wow.
benefit.
No, you. I'm so curious, Kishore.
Interesting.
Oh, you know how I feel about this. Everyone knows how I feel that's watched the movie. I have feelings.
The movie stands on its own.
All right. We got another story here.
No, I think that's our
Yeah.
big. Let's get jumped into. Actually, before we get into the pop culture news, I want to hear about your recent road trip.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't consider that pop culture, but
Sure.
what you did this past weekend.
I hopped in my car with my family. My son had an extra couple days off school this long weekend, and we drove all the way to Utah to Zion National Park.
Utah.
Okay.
Utah.
That's a day's drive.
It was a long drive,
Yeah.
and what was fascinating about it is we got to take routes that I've never sort of driven on before. So we drove through Nevada on the US 50, which is labeled the loneliest road in America because there's just nothing on it for huge stretches, like 100 miles between towns, and there's no development whatsoever because the only thing out there is land that the military's used for testing purposes. So you get wide swaths of just sort of natural beauty. And it was so incredible to just have a drive where there was a stretch for 2 hours we didn't see another car.
It's the kind of thing where you see this is the last gas station for 100 miles. Wow.
But that experience of like driving for so long and not seeing another car
Yeah.
and it was wonderful. I hadn't had that experience of like a true like road trip. We were just listening to like different podcasts the whole way and just chatting with each other. It was a real wonderful throwback. I really like that drive on the US 50. I highly recommend it for those that haven't. Basically starts like outside of Reno. You can go all the way to Carson City, but it starts outside of Reno and goes all the way across the state.
What did your son do in the car the whole time?
We actually, for most of the stretch, we actually like talked to each other and played card games. He
Card
eventually
games?
broke down and got out his tablet and watched a movie and stuff. So technology finally came into play, but for the longest time we like held out.
That's nice.
He was really nice. And then Zion's like, I don't believe in God, but that is like a place that brings me close. I love that location. Got to do some epic hikes there. We went canyoneering. I took my 7-year-old rappelling for the first time.
Whoa. So yeah, what are the activities when you get there that you can sign up for?
So I think one of the best hikes I've ever done in my life is in Zion National Park, the Narrows, where basically it's the slot canyon, 100 feet on either side. It just goes straight up, and there's a small stream that runs through it, and you hike up the river. You can hike down it too, but you can hike up it for 8 to 10 miles. There's also a hike there called the Subway Caves, where it's literally you're in a canyon that turns into a cave that looks like a hollowed out subway
Wow.
tunnel.
You did that?
I didn't do it this time. I've done it in previous visits. And then there's a lot, because this is sort of that sort of like terraced rock formations that you see in the Southwest. There's a lot of rock climbing and that stuff. And we went on a canyoneering adventure where we scrambled through a slot canyon and then rappelled down. So I got to take my 7-year-old rappelling. I got to have that moment with my wife where she's like, I'm never forgiving you for this, for doing this to my son, where he's kind of like dangling off a rope. But it turned out to be great.
I mean, obviously you had an instructor there. You didn't bring
of
your own
course.
rappelling gear.
Of course.
Was it a part of a larger group?
It was just the 7 of us. Like I met some family there.
Oh, cool.
But it was really delightful. And then coming back, we drove through Vegas, and you know what? It's underrated, that drive between Utah and Vegas, and it actually snowed while we were out there. And it was beautiful landscape to see a little bit of snow.
That's cool. Is it just super flat the whole time, and then you saw the lights?
No,
and
it like that area between Utah and Las Vegas has all these huge mountainous areas.
God, how fun would that be on a self-driving car?
Yeah, I mean, are you even looking out the window though? Like maybe you're watching.
No, then you're looking out the window for comfort, because if you're not in control of the car, you don't want to get motion sick. You gotta look outside.
That's a good point.
It was wonderful.
You need some AR.
If you haven't taken a long road trip in a long time, I encourage everyone to do it. Dinesh is back. Not that Dinesh.
Oh.
The one that's making news on Twitter. Not that one.
Please no.
But our friend Dinesh from Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley, season 5. I can't believe it's season 5 already.
Do you feel like this needs to be it? Last season, maybe?
No.
Really?
Go on and on and on.
I know, we live it, so it's a little bit strange being here in Silicon
Love
Valley.
it. We live it and love it. Silicon Valley season 5 coming out HBO. New trailer out. I haven't watched it. What'd you guys think? What'd you think, Kishore?
It was great. And the big news about this year, and this isn't hidden news, is T.J. Miller left the show.
No Ehrlich.
No more Ehrlich, so it's just the boys. I felt like the show needs to end because the trailer hits the same notes. I mean, it's still hilarious, but it's the same notes that had dotted every season. Oh, I can't believe we got this much money. Oh, we've lost control of our company again. Oh, this zany thing happens. But we got some shots of Jin Yang. That's all that matters to me.
And speaking of Jin Yang, you know he's going to be in San Francisco doing City Arts and Lectures talk. That's so weird. The comedian, the actor who plays Jin Yang.
Haven't you led those before?
What?
Have you led those City Arts talks before?
Yeah, I'm doing one in 2 weeks, but not with Jin Yang.
No.
Despite my protests to just do hot dog, not hot dog, for 2 hours on stage.
All right. And then, okay. We got to talk about Star Wars. All right.
Okay.
Toy Fair was this past weekend. New York Toy Fair. Big toy convention, Hasbro, Mattel, Lego, they all share some of their upcoming releases. Some of it's for a convention that's about toys, it is surprisingly, from what photos I've seen, not public friendly. It's all like it's like what you think of when you think of CES, like 25 years ago. Very like a B2B. You know, it's very it's just exhibitors showing product.
They've really resisted turning more public facing.
Yeah, and literally they put up walls at the convention center. You're walking down the big Javits Center, and you can't see the toys because they're all in like walled booths. It's like corporate secrets, and then you're invited in based on your appointment, and then you could see toys. And so
they do allow press, to be fair, but it's limited.
Why is that? Is it in order to keep the conversations confidential?
Well, this is really about selling toys.
Yeah,
and I think
selling toys to not to children or not to people, to distributors. Yes, to toy stores and to retailers. But there were some interesting things that came out. So
there's one I want to talk about.
Well, let's talk about the Millennium Falcon first.
Okay.
So there's a new Millennium Falcon that was unveiled at the Hasbro booth, and this is the Millennium Falcon from Solo.
Is it the Lego one?
No. This is just a Millennium Falcon from the Solo film, and apparently it reveals something about the Falcon from the upcoming film.
More than we saw in the trailer, because in the trailer we saw kind of a cleaned up Falcon, like a addition, more of the right place. What are we getting out of this? And this isn't much of a spoiler.
I don't know. The one I'm looking at is the Lego one.
Oh, tell me about the Lego one.
It looks totally different than the Millennium Falcon. Like the Millennium Falcon has those two little things in the front, the bills with you think it's a hauler of some kind, and it has the big center part and like a claw, but it doesn't actually move. But this one doesn't have that.
The mandibles.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah.
But this one
it's
just
filled in.
Yeah, it's totally
filled in. The Hasbro toy, you actually see parts that come off and theoretically, it's when they're going through the Kessel Run, is the speculation, that parts start flying off of the Millennium Falcon, like in the back. It's why the engines, the vents are exposed on top of the engines.
You don't think that's a modification, like to make it faster?
It could have been damage from the Kessel Run.
Mm-hmm.
Is the speculation.
I do like the idea of, I think there were some complaints about like that like slick, clean, white-looking Millennium Falcon in the trailer. That's what I want.
You want the new one?
Yeah, I want the newish.
Fresh off the line.
As issued.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing I think you want to talk about, Kishore, is Hasbro Lab.
Well, sort of.
This is super interesting. So Hasbro, which bought Kenner and has does all the various Star Wars figures, like they do the Black Series, they do the 3.5-inch line. They are launching a new toy. Now, do you guys remember what we talked about on Netflix, the Toys That Made Us?
Sure.
And they talked about how, was it Hasbro, when the G.I. Joe days, they made so much money that they could afford to make like the aircraft carrier for G.I. Joes.
USS Flag.
Right. That like the molds, the injection molds for that must have been so expensive, and they must have only sold like a handful of those. But they were so flush in money that they were like, F it, we're going to make a giant playset that's going to be like 4 feet long for children, that because we can. Well, Hasbro's at it again, and now they've announced a 4 feet long, a 50-inch long playset for your Star Wars toys. It's going to be Jabba's palace.
Sail barge,
Jabba's sail barge from Jedi.
It looks incredible. Like, you see renditions. Obviously, they don't really have a prototype of this. Like, the idea behind this is you're kickstarting a short run of this design.
Yeah, they're looking for 5,000 backers.
So
that's the part I don't
This
like.
is, and I think there's people are calling it crowdfunding, and so the idea is that
It is crowdfunding. Isn't
it's not.
Sure,
It is.
Just like any other crowdfunding
It's a
exercise.
pre-order system. I would not call. I think we need a better name for this. So the idea is that it's $500, and they are not going to manufacture this unless they get 5,000 people to commit to pre-orders, to put $500 in.
You just defined what Kickstarter is.
No. But Kickstarter, it's about using those funds to actually enable manufacturing.
Not just. It's also about proving markets and making sure that there is demand for this product.
I think we need a better name than crowdfunding, because they're not funding the manufacture of this. They're supporting it, and they're proving they're interested. Like, I wouldn't call Lego Ideas crowdfunding.
No, because you're not putting in money.
But you're putting commitment. Like, I don't think I hesitate to believe that the money that they're not going to make this already.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You think this is a foregone conclusion?
I think they're going to make it.
They have 41 days to get another 3,500 backers.
Yeah, 1,500 backers have already backed it. 41 days ago.
You're saying that if they don't make that, they're going to say, don't worry about it. We got you.
I think they'll probably make it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Because they're supposed to ship in. They're supposed to ship it later this year.
So the barge itself, like a large scale barge that has cutaways, that has different levels to it, that shows a scale that I don't think it's quite accurate to the scale of the figures, like the Kenner figures, but it's close.
That would be big.
That would be really big. But I love the idea of that toy.
I love the idea that they have imagined areas of this barge that we never saw. That there's like a little jail cell inside the barge.
It really looks like a playset.
Yeah.
Like the side panels come out, and you have like a cross section. It includes one figure, Jabba.
A big one.
To scale, 3.5-inch size Jabba. I think we actually have one of those from that we got from Hasbro. Oh, we painted one on a video a couple years ago. But you supply your own other figures. If you want the Boba Fett, you got to bring your own Boba Fett. You got to bring your own Leia. You got to bring your own Han Solo, Chewie, and Luke.
Yeah, bartenders, like the whole
That's right.
shebang.
You got to get R2 with the bartending R2.
Just like all the extras on that barge too. Just people wandering around.
Fabric sales.
Is it fabric sales?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, that makes $500 is actually a pretty good price.
You're
It's a
coming around.
great price for that,
You're
especially if you want to modify it.
You're trying to get these people. Now you're worried. Like maybe they won't get to 5,000.
They're gonna get to
You got to start
5,000.
giving it a hard sell.
I think this is so. The question I have is: are they only going to make 5,000, or is it once they get that 5,000 backer, then they can pay for the molds, or they say that's what's going to take for them to pay for the injection molding for something this big? Like, there's got to be margin on this.
I hope they stick to their guns. I hope they just do the run and only if they get the number of backers to it. If you're gonna do it, stick to it.
Well, now wait a minute. If there are only 5,000 of these things, that makes this much more valuable than $500.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was the deal. I thought that was going to establish it as a toy they would make indefinite numbers of.
Well, that would give them the minimum.
Yeah.
Like they would make no money. Like, are they doing this as a Razorblade model where they're like, okay, we need, like, I hope, because they're making plenty of money, hand over fist, that the $500 to me seems like a reasonable for this amount of injection molding and this amount of plastic and fabrication, that they're not making a ton of margin on this, and that they're selling this basically at cost. That's why they need the 5,000 backers to amortize the molding. And then they need, of course, you need to buy the figurines to fill it, and then you can make your margin on that. That I would then call crowdfunding.
I think they will reserve the right to make more in the future, but I hope they do limited supply. Like, I'm not excited about that for like people that will invest in it and all that. But this is not so different than, what Sideshow and other maquette makers do. They do limited runs of those. So I don't see a problem with it. Make it a short run thing. Make it really valuable and rare to start. And if it goes on from there, awesome.
I was wrong. It would ship next year. So this does tell me that they don't have the manufacturing capabilities ready yet. February of a year from now. $500 in to get this a year from now. It's a long wait. Ooh.
Do you think someone will blow one up?
Are you asking if we should blow one up?
Well, that would be fun. That would be fun.
So they have a photo in their website, it's HasbroLab.com, of one of the ILM model makers working on the miniature barge. And it looks pretty much like 5 feet long, 4.5, 5 feet long. I wonder if this could be considered studio scale.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Get it. They're debating about it. It's a lot of money, but it seems okay. I think it's a really interesting initiative to launch products of this scale. What do you think they should go for next?
In the Star Wars universe?
In the Star Wars universe. Or let's start with Star Wars. But like, if this is something that, they have the license, they just need to get Lucasfilm approval, but let's say that they're only gonna make 5,000 of something in that $500 range, what would you want?
I mean, it's got to be the Death Star, doesn't it?
No.
The Death Star's too big. I want an AT-AT.
Like a really nice. Don't they have one? They don't have an AT-AT for 3.5-inch figures.
I mean, they had the toy, but I think I'm sort of assuming that the construction of this will be better, like higher quality stuff. Maybe they do have an
$500. I don't know, man.
Maybe not.
Maybe.
What
do you want?
What do you want? Yeah.
Land speeder?
No, see, I think they would. That's not of this scale.
Sorry, stupid idea. What do you want?
I think, gosh,
a frigate, medical frigate. I'm just trying to bust out some weird stuff now.
I think a place like what are the iconic
the natural
locations?
thing is the destroyer. It's the Star
Destroyer, like the bridge of a Star Destroyer, or the Emperor's throne room.
Yeah.
Or the carbonite chamber.
With functioning liquid nitrogen.
Yeah. Cloud City platform with that you put your Falcon on. Yeah. That could be cool.
Yeah.
Right? Uh-huh. Dagobah. The swamps of Dagobah.
Supply your own pond scum. That's not the toy I was excited about, though.
What was?
Marvel Legends series is coming out with an Infinity Gauntlet. With articulating fingers.
I saw this.
Yeah, and you're excited.
Well, I don't think I am.
Kishore has been making his own Infinity.
Yeah,
Gauntlet.
the reason I'm not excited about this, I mean, it has light up gems, and I put a link to sort of the view. I like that it's a toy with articulating fingers. I think that's a pretty big development, and it has light up stones in it, which is neat. But it's plastic. You can see the look and feel of it. It's plastic.
I don't think it looks that great.
I don't think it looks that good either because it's plastic. It needs to have a metal finish on it.
Yeah, as Kate Blanchett said. As Hela said in Thor Ragnarok, fake. Knock it over. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One last bit from Toy Fair I want to talk about. DC, I guess it's what is the name of the DC Collectibles has a new range of high-end busts, limited edition busts for characters, and the first one they're releasing is the Joker, sculpted by Rick Baker.
Nice.
Digitally sculpted. They're only making 200 of these, and it is Rick Baker's interpretation of the Joker. Rick Baker has done a lot of Jokers. He did makeups of the Joker for his family a couple years ago for Halloween, and this one looks beautiful.
It's horrifying
and menacing. Yeah, terrifying.
I love how the one detail I really like is the eyes are different sizes. It's like kind of the Joker squinting just like a little bit. It adds to like the mania.
Yeah.
And the teeth are horrifying. It's straight out of like a British Journal of Smiles.
How large is this?
It's a life-size bust.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Talent.
Very, very cool. Okay, let's switch some gears and talk about video games.
Sure. You guys know what Replay FX is?
No.
Yes, because you talk about it every year.
Around this time. Well, around July. So it's coming up, and I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention in case you are in the Pittsburgh area and you're going to be there late July. Tickets go on sale this weekend for Replay FX, which is a fantastic retro games event where they bring in all the old video games and all the pinball games, and you play on free play after paying your admission for 1, 2, or 3 days.
So East Coast version of California Extreme.
I would say it is better than California Extreme. Because it's not Silicon Valley and it's not crazy crowded. Like it's Pittsburgh. They have more space. The convention center is more affordable, so they just have more space at their disposal. And there are not as many people there, so there's not lines for every single game. You can hear the games. There's space between them, and it's a wonderful event. I love it, and I'll be flying out there to compete in Pinburgh, which is the world's biggest pinball tournament.
You are competing.
I will be competing.
Wow, it's that time of year again. I can't believe it's been a year already.
Well, July. July is when
okay.
we go.
Are you
So
Tickets are on sale.
tickets go on sale Saturday.
Are you taking your son again? I think you took him last year, right?
Yeah. Last I heard, he wanted to go.
And it's enjoyable for like a family to go. It doesn't just have to be if you're competing.
No. Most people aren't competing. No, then there are other things. Like Billy Mitchell was there. Steve Wiebe was there. Competing.
We have some
Whoa.
things to talk about.
We
with
didn't
Billy
talk about
Mitchell.
that last week.
How did we not talk about that?
Oh my goodness.
We didn't?
We didn't. It was on our show notes and we didn't talk about it.
Oh my
We got to
goodness.
talk about Billy Mitchell. What's going on?
Do it.
All right. So Billy Mitchell, if you've seen the documentary King of Kong, gamer of the century, video gamer of the 20th century, holds high scores for a first person to have a perfect game of Pac-Man.
Yeah, very good.
And at some point held a high score for Donkey Kong, and runs his hot sauce company, of course. American, a collector of America-themed ties. Back in the news because his submission for Donkey Kong high score, which is not the high score currently, but it was the one that he had submitted to beat Steve Wiebe's high score in the documentary,
Like 15 years ago.
is now in contention because analysis of the footage shows that it was run on MAME.
That's right.
It was not running a real board.
And it was a video he supplied himself.
Yes. Now he did have a witness because the Twin Galaxies rules say that you submit a video and you must have real credible witness.
Yeah.
And even the witness's credibility is pulled into question. So what's the deal? What's the state of it?
I think you got it. Last I heard, Twin Galaxies was looking into it, and they would try to be as fair as possible. But the whole problem is like not only is Billy Mitchell's credibility on the line, Twin Galaxies is, and Twin Galaxies is really known as like they hold the chambers of the great high scores of all time of every single video game. They don't want their reputation to be in question. So hopefully they will make the right decision here. I'm not up to date. Maybe his scores have been pulled. I'm not sure, but it's a sad day for to be Billy Mitchell, and it's a good day to be Steve Wiebe.
Little vindication.
I
He
would
did
think so.
address this. Billy Mitchell addressed it on a radio show, and the way in which he defended his videotape was not convincing. He just said the person who claimed that it's not a legit score doesn't have the real tape, but the analysis of the MAME came from the very video that he supplied, and it's a frame-by-frame analysis. You can see the way in which the screen refreshes
Yeah.
and the characters, the sprites are rendered is of MAME and not of the board.
And you might say, well, what's wrong with playing on MAME? It's 100% accurate. And the problem is that you can pause and rewind time in such a way that
That's right.
that you can't with real boards,
Right.
Without like significant hacking, and then you can edit that together into
right.
what looks like a convincing single take of video.
And there's no one is saying that he did this, that he did multiple takes, that he spliced together a run of Donkey Kong. But the fact that he wasn't honest about it
And continues not to be.
and continues not to admit the fact that it's that it wasn't from a board, that brings the legitimacy of it into question. Where can you find out more information? Where to follow the drama? There's some forums, Twin Galaxy forums.
There's people making excellent YouTube videos about it. I don't know, but more importantly, if you want to play some games,
Go to
check replayfx.
replayfx.org.
You can go do a hot sauce tasting. That's what I really want to know.
When Billy was there a couple years ago, he had his hot sauce there, a whole booth set up. I don't imagine he'll be showing up this year.
See, I feel like no one's done much analysis of the hot sauce to see if it's any good, or if its ingredients really match up to what's stated.
I'm
willing to go.
It's front and center at the local grocery stores.
Is it?
Well, in the documentary, he moves it front and center because
That's right.
he moves it from the back. He takes extra shelf space.
I gotta watch that again.
There was a story that came out this past week that's more of a business story, but it's like the real world version of What If, of Marvel Comics What If. You know about this, Jeremy? The What If series?
Oh, no.
So in Marvel Comics, there's a famous line. In DC's, they have it. It's called Elseworlds. But they like to have fun and let the writers and the artists tell these stories of what if, and then they have this absurd, it's like a butterfly effect. Like, what if instead of Peter Parker being bitten by the spider, it was Mary Jane who was bitten by the spider, and then write this one issue or miniseries about this
Alternate universe.
Alternate universe.
Got it.
Right. And they take these critical, pivotal moments sometimes in Marvel history from all the events, whether it's Infinity War or the Clone Saga or whatever, and they say, what if this other thing had happened? And it's really fun for fans to see that kind of that imagination put on the page. And in DC, they have these Elseworlds stories, where they have these alternate universe stories. Well, we have a real world what if.
I don't get it.
In our Earth Prime universe. What if, instead of Marvel Studios making the Marvel films, Sony had bought the rights to make the Marvel films?
Right.
And it could very well have happened. Wall Street Journal published a story that said back in the 90s, 1998, when Sony, which had the rights to Spider-Man and made a ton, and was making the first Spider-Man movie, it came out in 2001. At that time, highest grossing weekend film of all time, really setting the stage for the modern superhero film, along with X-Men from Fox. They had the opportunity to buy the rights to every Marvel character for $25 million.
Wait a minute, total?
Total.
Oh my gosh.
$25 million.
Who would have thought?
This was when Marvel Entertainment was near bankruptcy and comics were not doing so well. And before we knew about the money-making potential, before Disney spent its billions to buy the rights to most of the Marvel characters. But Sony wasn't interested. No one cares.
It's just like Star Wars, right?
Only wanted to buy Spider-Man.
Lucas couldn't find a buyer for Star Wars.
Lucas couldn't find a buyer for Star Wars?
No, J.K. Rowling, right? Like, she shopped around Harry Potter. No one wanted it.
That's
not true, actually. No, I think... I think...
No one could.
No, that got an immediate buyer.
Yeah, Star Wars, I think Lucas found the right suitor to take care of the franchise. And as you know, Disney has clearly earned its money back from that purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah, many times
They've
over.
done well.
Yeah. But what a world that would be.
Hey, is that new Marvel ride open in Disneyland? It probably is, right? The new Twilight Zone of Terror converted to the Marvel thing?
Oh, yeah, it's at Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, have you
I have
been
not
there?
been.
I want to see what that's all about.
And oh god, I want to make a trip to Disneyland to do that, and also to do the VR,
Star Wars thing,
the Star Wars VR in downtown Disney.
Let's expense it. Let's do it.
Yeah. I don't know if we could do that. Let's do our own road trip. And then one last bit of pop culture news. Is there a new book about the video game business out? You want to talk about?
What are you talking about?
Is this a
Are
book?
you reading the headline? No. So we're talking about the Atari story, right?
Yes.
Okay. No. So last month, we didn't talk about this, and this was a good story. Nolan Bushnell was going to be nominated at GDC for a Pioneer Award. Did you hear about this?
Mm-hmm.
Which you think to yourself, well, how was he not the first person to receive the Pioneer Award? Right? How has he not gotten this award already? He's freaking Nolan Bushnell, founder of Atari, the reason why a lot of people in the games industry are in the games industry. And he was immediately met with backlash on Twitter and elsewhere because it was apparently there were some events in the 1970s at Atari where women were potentially not treated very respectfully. Co-ed hot tubs, invitations to clothing optional parties, this kind of thing.
Psychedelics, like lots of...
Right. And so within hours, they rescinded the award. They said, I'm sorry, we're not going to be presenting this to Nolan due to all the backlash. Nolan gave what is probably the best apology I've ever read from anybody who has been accused of sexual misconduct in the past year. So you should read that. But I also wanted to point you to the story that Kotaku published last week, which is an investigative report where they talked to 12 females who worked at Atari in the earliest days to talk about their experiences there. And to a large degree, I wouldn't say it vindicates anybody, but it definitely gives perspective on not just what the 70s meant for this, but also what Atari was and who Nolan was compared to other companies. And the people who worked there, these 12 females individual, the report, it's a long article, and it's filled with interesting details, but at one point she says that a quarter of them could say Me Too and include themselves in the Me Too movement. But all of them, those that would say that, say it has nothing to do with their experience at Atari. That their experience at Atari was one where women were promoted quickly if they were good at their job, like anyone else, and that there were people at Atari in all the different divisions who were female and non, who were who felt like it was a really wonderful place to work. So it's an interesting bit of perspective on that story. I was sorry to see Nolan get such bad attention over this, and I think this is it's a nice break from that.
I think that in the future he will get that award, get that recognition from GDC. This year maybe is not the right year for that to happen.
That's probably the bigger point, is that this asking the GDC not to award this to Nolan is more about what do we want to reflect about the game industry today, and that's just not current. So yes, I'm with you on that.
Got it.
Where are we going?
We're going to tech news.
Oh my God!
There you go.
You guys use Google?
No. What's that?
It's a new company, startup.
Search engine.
Babel. No. What was Babelfish? What was I using before Google? Alta Vista.
You use Alta Vista?
Yeah, you remember that.
What
right?
were your search engines of choice before Google?
I hate to admit this, but my wife used Ask Jeeves.
Oh, sure.
Ask.com, Ask Jeeves. Wow.
Ask Jeeves, not good.
What was one that aggregated a bunch, like Hotwire or something?
Aggregated what?
A bunch of other search
like
engines.
Yahoo and what else?
Yeah. Yahoo for a long time was indexed by hand.
Like manually
indexed.
Yeah.
It was not. And then web crawler. Web crawler was one that I used before Google. Yeah.
Lycos was my homepage.
Lycos, yes. Lycos. That's right. Yeah, when search engines were also ISPs for a long time. But Google, most used search engine in the world, we use it very frequently. They had recently a big feature change. I don't know if you guys noticed. I noticed this before I read the article. I use Google image search a lot.
This is big.
This is
a big
totally
deal.
big deal. And I'm sure you guys out there, listeners out there, use Google image search. When you click Google, when you search a term and you click images, you get this grid of images, and you can use your arrow keys and left, right, typically associated with each image. And before last week were the options to visit the website that the image is hosted on, and then also a view image link that lets you actually see the image in full resolution, because what you actually see in the Google indexing is a scaled down version.
Yep.
Well, no longer.
Yeah, like right away, it's gone.
They just flip a switch.
I'm surprised this hasn't written about more.
Yeah.
Because it's not been made like the front headlines of of tech news sites.
Does everyone not use this feature every day?
I use
this
it
all the
so
time.
frequently.
I use it
right?
all the time too.
Yes, and especially in research, in archiving, like Google reverse image search, and just getting the highest quality image. It's almost like a treasure hunt to find the original source image that's not gone through cycles of compression.
Wait,
but
what is this all about?
this is about a legal suit, a settlement that Google had with the Getty Institute.
of Getty images.
Yes, Getty had sued Google because Google indexed Getty images, even the both the watermarked one and the unwatermarked ones, and made it too easy for people to find high-res copies, they said, of images. So as part of the settlement, Google can continue to index the Getty library, but across the entire web, no longer will you have easy access to the full resolution photos.
So
and
I'm really
images.
surprised it's across the entire web and not just Getty's library, because that's what you would think Getty cares about.
Yeah, they had set that. Now it's new precedent.
I mean, it's got to be it. It's got to just be precedent, and they're sure that other people would follow suit and want the same treatment.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's already affected me because I went looking for an image and I found it. Google image search. I hit view image, and it took me to some Pinterest where it wasn't even on the Pinterest. I couldn't even find it. So it
Gets to the case. It gets to the gray area that is image hosting and publishing platforms.
Deep linking.
Pinterest works because, technically, the images that people post on Pinterest are not. They're not. It's a publishing platform, right? You're saving images. You're sharing your galleries. But the people who share those galleries don't own the images. They're finding them other sites, and so therefore it's just really deep linking into the sites that originally hosted it. And Pinterest is holding, like Google Image Search, a thumbnail that's supposed to point you there. But same with Twitter and Facebook, right? People post images on Twitter all the time that they didn't create, that they just found online. And Twitter, technically, it's on the publisher, to have the rights to that, and those could be taken down at any time.
I don't doubt this is going to increase traffic to all of the sites that host the images. It's just less convenient for me. There probably is going to be an extension available for Chrome this afternoon that solves this problem.
Probably. Yeah.
Last night, did you see the news, last night from when we're recording this, that Twitter suspended a bunch of accounts in a supposed bot crackdown? And there was a reaction this morning that I think is not very interesting, where a lot of conservatives said this was targeted, a political targeting. I think that's the less interesting part of the story for me. Is Twitter behind the scenes actually now taking action against suspended bots as a leap forward to try to create distinctions between who is real and not real on the platform? Mm-hmm. And is that even interesting to you? I really want to know who the bots are.
Yeah, why wouldn't? Yeah, we all want to know that.
I don't know. I think there's some people that say, well, there's certain things that are bot-like, but are still have like humans behind it. And how easy
have editorial value?
Yeah, exactly. And how easy is it to fool this system, to fool this crackdown? We're not just talking about like the tested 1237 account that is clearly like bot-like in nature. Yeah. It's really nuanced where, basically people are making mistakes on whether things are bots or not and how they interact with them.
I think you're right in that some bots provide some like either humor value or are not malicious, let's just say. But isn't it more about bots following people and it inflating the ranking?
That's how it was noticed. I'm not sure. Twitter hasn't really commented on this at this point. So we don't know if this crackdown is about those inflated numbers, because like you can inflate your numbers a million ways. There's whole server farms where you can pay $10 for 1,000 followers or whatever.
That explains your numbers.
Oh,
whoa.
That's a deep cut against our old Twitter follower fight. But I think 20% of my followers are bots, according to some algorithms.
I would have no problem with bots being the follows that you have from bots just being taken away.
Me neither.
from everyone across the board.
The expectation is everybody on Twitter is a human. And I don't mean the expectation from nerds, because we all know that there's bots out there, but the general public just assumes everybody is a human. And that's what I would hope it would be.
I don't care about the follower count, because the follower count is just ego in a lot of ways. I know it means something economically for people like, ooh, you have a lot of people following you on Twitter. I think it's more important to label the bots with some sort of like robot, check mark.
Once they
Robot
are,
egg.
Once they're
Yeah.
outed, once they are publicly bots, what's the purpose anymore? No one's going to care what they do or say.
But some people like the novelty of. I mean, it's
Like on Reddit, if you do like an automatic, I'm
yes.
a bot. I will remind you.
Sure. Or the Turing, the Turing test effect of a bot. Bots using neural nets to generate language, and having that Twitter avatar. Like I guess Horse eBooks ended up being a real person, but something like that.
Like there's certain, we live here in the Bay Area. We probably all follow a USGS bot on earthquakes. I'm not going to stop following that bot.
That's totally different. It's not pretending to be human.
I know, but like I think there are some cases where there are bots out there that I don't mind following or interacting with, but I just want to know who they are.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. There is a hilarious Echo Arena video of a guy pretending to be a bot who is
doing the robot.
He's a human, and he got into a game, and he pretended to be a training bot for new players, and this little kid
believes.
Well,
the little kid shouldn't be playing in the first place.
Well,
but
there are a lot of little kids playing Echo Arena.
that's scary. That's really scary.
He's so cute. He's like, "Nice shot, training bot. Thank you."
Oh, no. This is a slippery slope.
Training bot. What's 3 + 18? 21. Just I was like, wow, that was fast, training bot. And then like gives him like a complex mathematical equation, and training bot just says the number, and he's like, wow.
Suddenly, the little kid that you see the hands move the headsets, and it gets a little taller, and it becomes the adult. What are you saying to my child?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Shake, shake, shake.
Exactly. It could be. It could happen that way. It's good stuff.
Wow. All right.
People pretending to be bots. You see, works both ways.
Fair enough.
I always thought there'd be a cool VR game where you try to find, the ship, that classic Steam game, the ship, where people have to pretend to be robots.
Yeah.
And you hide amongst AI.
NPCs, yeah.
I would love that in VR, where
It'd be impossible. It would be harder to do. It would be a test of their ability to do human-like animation.
Well,
so
you just
in.
generate. It's just like Pong, the 11 table tennis, where you just record a bunch of humans and you crowdsource the human animations.
Yeah.
Because you're just tracking the points, and then neural net train your AI to do erratic things, and then real humans have to play alongside.
Oh, now I'm just imagining a bunch of noise because it's just erratic movement everywhere.
Well, I guess you have to optimize the algorithm.
That would be interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you have to hide amongst the AI that's trained based on real human animations. And then you could do something like a hunting game. I don't know.
Make it so.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting too far ahead of ourselves.
No, we're still in the dystopian future with the next story, which is on Amazon and how the robot overlords at Amazon are interacting with the humans.
This is great. So Amazon.
This is great?
Yeah. This is a good story. So the New York Times is reporting that Amazon has filed a patent for a wristband that will track the wearer's position and give them haptic feedback when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I don't think that's like electric shocks, but I do think it will be some kind of vibration.
This is not a consumer product for anyone that's worried about it.
Well, actually, it's kind of unknown. Like maybe Amazon's going to produce this like the Echo. Maybe this is something they're going to sell to manufacturers or theme parks. Or perhaps...
Give me a use case.
Perhaps more... Well, I think the more obvious use case is that they will use it internally on their own workers to make sure that they are doing what they should be doing.
That is dystopian as hell.
When they should be doing
Put collars on workers and shock them when they're in places they're not supposed to be.
And
they're not doing the work Amazon thinks they're doing. That is effed up.
Wow. Now I'm wrong.
It's a short jump between wristband and neck collar.
I'm wrong to feel this way, but I actually have mixed feelings about this. They're mixed.
I like how you started that being like, I am wrong to feel this way.
I am.
Here's how I feel.
I want you to understand I know that. But I have been the guy in the office who is, at least at the time, working most efficiently. And every
Whoa!
and
Whoa! You need to think about what you're saying next.
and everyone else on the team is like on Facebook or like, doing a few minutes.
Playing some Quake,
and instant
back at the old
messaging.
PC Gamer
And
offices.
then, okay, then I'll get back. Maybe I'll do a little more work. And then I got to I got to do this text message, or I got to take a long lunch. And I've just been like jamming on my job. And I feel like it would be wonderful if everyone else was on the same page.
All right. How desperately do the viewers want to see Jeremy in a one-day build with Adam? Where he's like,
Yeah, right.
you're slacking a little bit
No,
there,
see,
Adam.
Shock the collar, shock collar.
Now that is perspective generating. That working with Adam will make anybody's head fry because you realize just how fast he works and thinks.
Oh my goodness. Well, we can't build the robots to be like humans, so let's turn our humans into the robots.
Well, that's it. That's what's happening here. And so they're going to make sure that everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing. And apparently, like, it's not a real happy place to work already. So the fact that they might be wearing collars or wristbands that give them vibrations and are always monitoring what they're doing.
I'm glad the story is out because it gives the people there some perspective. And I mean, sometimes to develop these ideas that in a vacuum may seem, according to the numbers, like a great idea. And, it takes some perspective to take a step back and say, maybe it's not the right thing to implement. And we can only hope the people running those businesses make the right decisions. And,
It's just a patent. But this has given me a lot of insight about working with Jeremy. So,
yeah, right.
Dude, have you been there before? You've been there before. You know what it's like.
don't comment.
All right, just saying.
Then that's more of a commentary on your interpersonal skills and your inability to work with others to encourage efficiencies and encourage collaborations, as opposed to just sitting there seething, arms folded, coding, and angry that someone's on Facebook.
Who needs interpersonal skills when you have technology?
Boy, you just summed up the problem with Silicon Valley right there.
Are we still in the first story where we're in the Silicon Valley trailer?
There we go. Season 6 plot point. Put those collars on Pied Piper employees. Okay, here's a positive note. So where's that money going? Jeff Bezos is I don't know if this was public, but he is the private funder behind the Long Now clock project, the clock of the Long Now, and
The 10,000-year clock.
The 10,000-year clock. So this Long Now is an organization, and you can become a member. They do talks. They encourage thinking about long term, and
it's sort of curated by Stuart Brand. I think it's a really wonderful organization, especially some of the seminars, because they do really make you think long term about civilization.
And the physical manifestation of that thinking is this project they've been embarking on that's led by Stuart Brand and also Danny Hillis. And now we know funded by Jeff Bezos, which is to install a working clock deep into how many feet is it? 500 feet?
500 feet tall.
In a cavern, in a mountainside, essentially.
In Nevada, I think, somewhere.
And they're working on installing it right now. There's actually some great video you can find from the Long Now Foundation of the engineering of this. But they've done a scale model, and this is a clock that's supposed to operate for 10,000 years, which is a mind-blowing, it helps us think about humanity and the scale of our civilization.
The actual installation is interesting from a build perspective, from like just it's a bit of a stunt, but I think what you pointed to is the behind-the-scenes engineering videos is what's really interesting about this project. If you live in the San Francisco Bay Area, Long Now has a bar called The Interval, and they have
at
elements.
Fort Mason. Yep.
Yeah, at Fort Mason, they have elements of the clock there explaining some of the engineering process with some videos and content available there to learn more. I think this is really cool that this is moving forward. It does feel like, I'm not sure what the value of this is going to be, but that's what the whole premise of the Long Now Foundation was to do this as one project they were working on.
Mm-hmm. It's in Texas. Is where
Oh,
they're
Texas,
building.
sorry.
Texas. Yeah, it's totally one of those things. Like it makes the mind wonder to what would it be like 5,000 years from now. Beyond any of our legacies, and what humanity would think of this type of achievement and this type of engineering.
Especially when you think like 5,000 years ago, it's basically the dawn of the first Egyptian civilization. So we're talking, we don't have this huge history on this planet when you think about that timescale. So 5,000 years in the future,
Feels like something out of a Neil Stephenson book.
maybe the internet will work by then.
Will it be a tourist attraction?
I don't think so.
I mean, it's so beautiful. You'd expect people to be able to see it.
I think that they'll have video feeds or something, but I
Live
don't
video,
think they
yeah.
want to risk access to it.
Wow. So will it be encased in some sort of like a nuclear proof?
Well, it's in the
bunker?
mountain. It's in a mountain, and they will.
That's what you get. All right.
Yeah.
A natural bunker.
Yep. All right. Switching gears again. Talking about gears and car gears. Did you see the most tragic thing? A crashed Tesla 3. This photo.
No.
Oh,
Model 3.
Everybody okay?
Yeah. Tesla Model 3 owner. There aren't many of them.
Wow.
Survived a 60-mile-per-hour crash, and there's a
Holy
photo
cow.
of the crash Model 3, and posted in the Tesla Motors subreddit about not only the experience of the crash, but how the car operated during the crash and protected him from damage. Serious accident, but aside from the car being completely totaled, he had good things to say about how the cabin survived and how the build of the car helped save his life.
And there was no battery rupture or fire that was a talking point with the Model S's last year.
Yeah.
One interesting thing though was the screen. The Tesla Model 3 has this screen, and it's a glass screen, and during the collision, that glass screen shattered, and that was a cause for concern.
Oh.
It caused some cuts.
Isn't that aren't those tempered so they would break into little bits like your windshield?
No.
Why make them glass at all? Why not just make it plexi?
Well, because it's touch just like your phone. and
Yeah, but
stuff.
I mean, wouldn't it?
It's a real thin sheet of glass,
Smaller.
like Gorilla Glass style, but
Yeah.
in that type of collision, that's going to be shattering. I mean, look at your phones. Your phones don't shatter in a tempered way. When your phone screen shatters, it's shards.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's
What?
interesting.
It wasn't an autopilot.
The details of the crash were not released because of insurance purposes,
Okay.
so they're still.
But whenever there's an accident, that's always the headline is like autopilot has accident. I assume he was driving manually if that's
Yeah.
not a part of the story.
Well, if you're a Tesla owner, you can jump back to the top of the list and get your Model 3 before anyone else, anyway.
Did you hear about this? Is more Tesla news. Just came to the top of Ars Technica today. Was it today? No, yesterday, I guess. Where apparently Tesla cloud resources were hacked, and
What?
the hackers installed cryptocurrency mining malware. So, it's like they got in there and they installed their own custom variant of the crypto mining software that used custom ports and pointed to mining pools that were, not normal addresses that any, software, anti-malware software would have been looking for. But they just got in there using some username password that they had, found, got in there, installed the software, and out they went. They had it throttled so that no one would notice.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have been pretty restrained, but mining
office space.
is becoming a real menace. Not only because of the malware stuff we're seeing, but the energy usage and how that's contributing to climate change and creating conditions that are hard in different countries around causing like brownouts and in some cases blackouts. This week, astronomers reported they can't buy GPUs to do some deep space research
They're
because
not alone,
the GPUs are
thanks.
spiked. I want to see this come back down because it's causing ripple problems everywhere.
Whoa, no pun intended.
No, I actually did intend that pun.
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't know you guys knew about Ripple. The problem is you can't tell people to stop it. They won't stop it.
You can't just put out a tweet that says "Stop it."
Enough.
Enough with your mining.
I mean, the GPU manufacturers, what they probably need to end up doing is making mining specific processors.
Yeah.
I mean, there are ASICs out there that you can buy and things, but like, it seems to me that there's a lot of hardware on the GPUs. Then again, I mean, maybe they just couldn't meet demand anyway. Maybe if they made another set of processors for mining, there would be so much demand that people would still buy the regular standard GPUs. I don't know. It's trouble.
Moving on, like this isn't a tech heavy week. We're not getting a lot of product launches or anything else
Soon.
But next week we do get the Galaxy S9.
Ooh.
Now with less fire. No, I'm kidding. That wasn't the note.
That was the note.
That was a note. I'm just joking. This is really a phone that I think Norm would be interested in because it doesn't do much in terms of no Face ID, nothing like that.
Yep.
Just it's still fingerprint sensor. But really, it's about the upgraded camera.
Yeah, there are some leaked photos, and this is a phone that will be announced in Spain on the 25th. That's the anticipation for the event. And the leaked photos look very much like the SA. What looks to be different is this camera system, which, according to some reports, have a variable aperture system. That is very interesting. I'm not sure how that works. The aperture blades apparently will let it shift between, based on light levels, shifting between f2.4 and f1.5 as needed. Now, why would it do that?
Well,
just like any camera user would want, maybe to adjust that depth of field, see what you can get.
I'm more wondering, like, this is a moving part inside of a phone. We haven't had real moving parts inside of a phone in forever.
Well, that's not true. No, I mean, a lot of them, they have like the focal thing that like flexes the lens, so it can get a little bit of like actual physical focus.
But this is a bigger.
I don't know.
I mean, like I would think this is prone to breakage, just like a normal camera.
Yeah. Maybe.
I'm so interested. Why would you want to have it be a higher aperture, meaning having less light, flatter image? Like most cameras, smartphone cameras are tiny sensors, wide-angle lenses that really want to have the most light as possible. So why would you want less light in this camera?
I don't know.
I can't wait to see.
We'll wait to see how they pitch it.
And I misstated something. It will have like a Face ID unlock.
Oh,
that's the anticipation.
In addition to a touch.
In addition to a fingerprint.
I gotta say, over the past 5 months now of using a phone with Face ID, more false negatives than I like. I'm putting on more. I'm entering my passcode manually more often than I'm.
Is it like just Face ID judging you, being like, we don't like that haircut?
No, it's more like the angle in which I'm holding the phone sometimes. Or, the first thing in the morning when I pick up the phone, I'm like really sleepy and the Face ID won't recognize.
Right.
Wow. I want to see that face, man.
I'm like, what? Where's the phone? Where's the phone? No, I don't know my passcode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Another tech item that's come out, and this is more of a broad category, and this is really about Jeremy's interest in this. We have an electric scooter on the market. Electric scooters, not unusual. We have a new one from the company Arcos.
Arcos, maker of media players?
I remember I had like
Android tablets?
I had a flashback to an Arcos MP3 player.
Oh
I
my
had like
God.
way back when.
Wow.
It looked like something out of Last Starfighter. But this one is Android powered.
What does that mean? Runs Android.
It has a phone essentially built into it that runs Android Oreo that can give you directions, that can play music.
What?
A tablet-mounted
your phone
electric
can do
scooter.
that. Why? What?
So you don't have to have your phone put on the scooter. It's just built in 5-inch screen.
You're gonna scoot somewhere without your phone?
You don't have to risk the phone falling off a scooter mount.
Well, the thing doesn't have a screen. You can have it's going to be all audio, I assume.
No, it does have a screen.
It
a 5-inch
does?
screen.
This scooter has a 5-inch
screen.
You are right.
Yeah, running Android.
Look at that.
I don't think scooters need screens.
What if it's renting scooters? Like if you go, you're visiting a town, you rent
the tourism aspect.
Yeah, I think that
you
could be interesting.
Maps and points of interest.
But I was going to ask Jeremy, just generally as a boosted board user,
yes,
how important is the integration of a phone to the experience of riding an electric transport like this?
Well, I mean, what do you mean?
Like, do you feel like
this
a
is
screen? Yeah, this is a generation up from what you've seen. But how important is it to have that integration of a screen in the experience?
I mean, it's a way to attract new customers. It has nothing to do with the inherent feeling of riding an electric vehicle like this, like a scooter or a skateboard. That's purely visceral. I mean, that's just with the wind in your hair.
But you're not looking for like Google Maps when you're riding your boosted board. You don't feel
well,
like
heck no,
that's
man.
important.
I'm not. No, and you're stupid if you got headphones on. You shouldn't be doing that. You got to pay attention. And it's like snowboarding on the streets, and it's a feeling. It's a physical thing. Adding technology to this, I like your idea of the tourism aspect. I don't know. Maybe it makes more sense on a scooter because it's less about you're not doing cool stuff.
It's pretty expensive. You're not.
You're
Wow.
not carving up the streets.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're literally just
First thing on
by.
work ethic. Second thing now on people riding scooters.
So judgy.
Ouch.
Now I did a whole
Judgy
talk
Jeremy.
at the Castro about don't judge us. So I'm not judging this guy. I'm not. But it maybe it makes sense because if you're gonna make a new product, you've got to compete and you've got to make yourself stand out from all the other guys. And a screen in Android certainly seems to do that.
Well, it speaks to the commoditization of tablets and what zero royalty Android has done. Arcos made really cheap tablets, Android tablets, and now they're putting those tablets basically on scooters. But as we know, it's not like you can just slap an Android tablet on anything and make it useful. The high integration of software and hardware is going to be important. And if that tablet isn't well integrated with the scooter, and it's just like having a cheap Android tablet on your scooter, it's not going to be very useful. So there are pros and cons to tablets reaching very low cost. And I would prefer a more thoughtful user experience. And that's not to say this one isn't going to be thoughtful, but what I want when we see integration of technology is a thoughtful integration.
There is an app for the boosted board, but it just you give firmware updates, you see how many miles you've gone.
Yeah, and I saw Adam use his app with the one wheel, and it's really the most useful thing is about charging, like seeing when it's fully charged, but also there was different profiles he could set for the conditions that he was driving in. Yeah. So like you could have your top speed, like racing one.
Do people how people when they go running, they wear GPS watches and you can track your elevation, you can track your route, and you can share that stuff. Is that something that you want to see integrated with these electric last mile vehicles so you can optimize your routes and figure out where you're using it and what your inclines are and geographically optimize your city to your scooting habit?
You know what I want is I've always wished that there was a boosted board option in Google Maps right next to public transport and walking. Yeah.
For inclinations?
For like the best routes. And maybe it's the biking. Maybe that you just choose biking and then it'll choose the biking lanes. And
you don't go faster on bikes.
But they're allowed to be in the biking lanes, or at least it's accepted. And
right. And bikers probably don't like you
don't
guys because you guys are going slower than bicyclists.
I don't know about that. Yeah, certainly downhill. Yeah, you're right.
We're gonna
no. Tell me about Doom on Switch. What is this?
I'm gonna talk about Doom on Switch. I'm gonna switch gears and talk about some video games.
All right.
Doom is already out on Nintendo Switch, and it's being patched. And this is a new feature with the latest patch. I hope comes out on the Wolfenstein release on Switch because that's what I'm looking forward to. But it's adding motion controls for aiming with your Joy-Con. Yeah.
How does that work?
So you hold the Joy-Con and you can aim at the screen, whether it's TV screen or you calibrate it.
Yeah.
And you can waggle left and right for aiming.
But I still steer with the stick. So I still can do massive, fast looks with the stick, but then it's like a fine tune with the wagging?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I don't know how one-to-one that is, and the one-to-one is going to be different whether you're looking at a 7-inch screen versus a 40-inch screen.
Yeah.
Or depending on the distance. So you want that one-to-one to be perfectly mapped.
Oh,
right?
Well, I don't know about one-to-one at all because, the Wii actually could see where it was pointed because it had the infrared emitters.
Right. And here, all you have is accelerometer.
Yeah. So I wonder about that, but I don't know. It sounds fun. I'd like to try that.
Yeah.
I don't have Doom on Switch, but
me neither.
This is a cool feature. I might have to buy it.
Can you strafe that way? You can just
You would
walk?
just use the stick, the thumbstick, the left thumbstick.
That'd be just awesome if you had to actually physically move over, and that would cause you to strafe.
Well, then you might as well play it in VR.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah. One last story in tech. This one is a little bit of a controversy. We got some official word from the ESA, Electronic Software Association.
They're the ones that put on E3, for those that don't know.
about preservation of software.
This is a weird. They filed a 40-page brief, and I like loyal listeners will know Steve Lynn, who's been on the podcast before, a friend of Tested, it works at a nonprofit about preserving video games, and he and I had a little exchange about this last night. I mean, but the ESA has essentially said a couple things. Like, one, we want to maintain copyrights for games, even if they're multiplayer games that people don't play anymore, like from the past. And I sort of understand that, like wanting to protect the IP of something that was developed, even though it may lie dormant.
Now, you're talking about, when you're saying online games, you mean games with servers, not just like web games.
Right.
Like Ultima Online, EverQuest.
Yeah, EverQuest is the one that's named because I think there's been a lot of push to preserve that in some way. So I can kind of sort of understand the rationale behind that. But the other thing they said is that some of these games don't need to be preserved in this brief, which is something I totally rebut against. This is such an important part of history.
I've got to think that was misunderstood. I mean, that's an insane thing to say.
Yeah, I don't understand that. And I think there should be like some sort of, I don't know, loophole exception for nonprofits that are trying to preserve these games. Like, we're not talking about places that are charging admission for people to play EverQuest again.
Right.
But preserving the history of it should just be an important part of what happens. I don't know why the ESA would be against that or make it harder.
There's always been this abandonware subculture among wares traders, especially in the game space. And it's always been the old games that hardly can't even run them anymore. A lot of them are just DOS games that haven't been updated to run on Windows. And so, the rights holders, mostly they just let it slide. But it's always been legally gray. So I can understand where they're coming from. That maybe they're thinking eventually we'll have a nostalgic wave, and we'll want to take advantage of it and make some money off from re-licensing or, a re-release of some kind. And that some games have done that and done well with it. So, I can understand maybe why they want to retain those rights and keep a hold of it. But to say that they shouldn't be preserved is just false.
I hope it was just a misquote or a quote out of context.
Yeah.
I think that does it for technology news this week. Before we move on to our next segment, I do want to thank the sponsor of this week's podcast, and that's Google's Cloud platform. Are you looking to move to the cloud but don't know where to begin? You can check out Google Cloud Platform's weekly podcast where Google developer advocates Melanie Warwick and Mark Mandel answer questions, get in the weeds, and talk to GCP teams, customers, and partners about best practices, from security to machine learning and more. Hear from technologists all over Google about trends and cool things happening with their technology. Learn more and subscribe to the podcast at g.co/GCP podcast. That's g.co/GCP podcast. And thank them for sponsoring this week's episode.
Now it's time for a moment of science. A shortened moment of science this week because I was away. I was planning on talking about the SpaceX launch this morning, but that was delayed due to high winds. It has come to my attention that I'm a little bit negative in the moment of science. I report on oftentimes some stories that have some downer elements in it. So, for once, I'm going to tell you a few things that show that 2017 was the best year ever. All right, ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
You remember the Zika virus?
Yeah.
It's pretty much gone.
Yes.
We cannot find very many instances of it. And there's people in Latin American countries that have developed a full immunity to it. And that is pretty wonderful. Leprosy. Can I interest you in a leprosy?
Oh, well, no, I don't. No.
Leprosy is now very treatable. And in fact, the World Health Organization is targeting 2020. They're going to end the disease. How about that?
That's great.
What does that mean?
That means
no more
it'll
lepers.
be gone. It'll be gone. No more lepers.
Wow. Praise Jesus.
the CDC reported that the measles vaccine from the year 2000 to 2014 has saved 20 million lives. The poverty rate in the U.S. has fallen to a low since the financial crisis of 2008 when it peaked. It's down to 12.7%. There are all these like wonderful stories in health and conservation. I'll link to like a full list. But this idea that I want to inject a little bit more optimism when it comes to science of the world. Like things are progressing in an amazing way. All right, now I've gotten off the table. Here comes a really negative story.
Okay.
There is something called Compass, which is a software algorithm that's used in courtrooms. This first came to light because of a ProPublica story in 2016. And Compass is designed to assess the risk of recidivism of a potential defendant in a courtroom. And it's an algorithm-based procedure that will label somebody as low risk or high risk, and judges can then use that information to assess different bail rates, different parole identification. It can have a huge impact on this. ProPublica did a story 2 years ago that showed that the software seemed to have a racial bias built into it for some reason. That it was more often than not saying that black people had a higher risk generated in a statistically significant way. The New York Times has written about this and just how ethically this is weird. This is full Minority Report, because when you're talking about risk of recidivism, we're talking about future crime risk.
Yeah. I mean, race wasn't an issue in Minority Report, right? As I recall?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
Well, scientists did a study that came out this week where they assessed the correctness of the algorithm versus a sample of just random people on the internet judging the risk.
Oh boy. I'm sure it went well.
It came out equal. The random people on the internet were able to make predictions just as accurately as the algorithm. And while this is like this is kind of a negative story, like we're over relying on this one algorithm, I think it's what's interesting. This is not a story you hear about, that courtrooms are using machine learning and algorithms in their quest for justice. What I really wanted to bring up was a discussion of how comfortable are you about these algorithms being in places like judicial areas or making scientific decisions from this point? Because we've been having a lot of conversations about the algorithm of Facebook and Twitter, preferentially showing you news.
All right, here's the thing.
Well, what about other places?
It 100% needs to be open source. This is something, if it's going to be used in the courtroom, the methods that it uses to make decisions need to be open to everybody to see. And it will benefit from all of the same things that open source software does, which is an objective audience looking at the source code and adding improvements. And you would at least be able to see where these racial problems are rooted. That's my feeling. If that actually were to happen, this is interesting. I could see it being one element, at least for now, as a test. I'm willing to trust cars on the road, so why shouldn't I be willing to trust Compass? I mean, it's a completely different type of intelligence.
So let's say we even had an open source one. So you have like a little bit more trust in the software and the algorithm development. Mm-hmm. How comfortable are you ethically about an algorithm being involved in criminal justice proceedings at all?
I think it's
this is Minority Report.
I think it's
right?
futuristic, and I think it's probably going to be a fact of life at some point over the next decades, and we'll take baby steps, and it should be one element for now. I think people are just as fallible, and you put the wrong people
in a lot of cases. People are more fallible.
You put people in the jury box, and they're going to have their own biases.
I think it brings up this idea of trust in algorithms overall for us to be discussing. And it's not one we get to discuss because the algorithms almost always developed by private companies.
Mm-hmm. With zero transparency.
Well, for reasons, too. Because that's a thing they invested a lot of time to develop. So I just think this is just a really interesting case to look at. And assessing the scientific merit of this, I think the scientists who did the analysis basically said, like, did no one think about just testing out this algorithm against a random sampling of people? So I think the open source idea is an interesting one. That's it for this week.
Did they say what they paid for it?
No, that I don't want to open up that can of worms.
The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week.
You know, we're over a month and a half into 2018. I would still consider early 2018, but we still have not seen much of Oculus Go. Developers have it in their hands.
Yeah, we saw a box surface momentarily.
Yep,
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but the experience is something that we have no idea about. We know some of the hardware specs, and you know, Facebook did announce who's making it. Xiaomi is their partner for making it, and it's a mobile chipset, runs a Qualcomm 821 processor. But some fears maybe that the price of getting it down to its low cost, the $200 price point, one of the trade-offs was that they had to use older hardware, and that older hardware is getting older all the time because we're getting new chips. That chip 821, the Qualcomm 821, the Snapdragon 821 isn't even the newest Qualcomm chip as of a month ago, and as of this month, it may be 2 generations behind. That same event we talked about Samsung Galaxy S9 being announced at this coming weekend at Mobile World Congress is where Qualcomm is going to be showing off its next generation Snapdragon chip, the Qualcomm 8, I think we get this number right, 845. And the 845 is going to be made for VR with VR optimizations.
What does that mean?
Well, they have a reference headset, a prototype headset, a reference design headset that shows off the features of this chipset.
Oh.
The specs of the reference headset are up to debate because the press release and the photos aren't very clear. But what they're saying is that this chip that the headset is being showing off, the chip can run up to 2.4K per eye.
Whoa.
Yeah, past 2K per eye at 120 hertz up to.
Diggity.
I don't know if that's like 120 hertz at maybe 2K per eye, and then if you load it, get down to 90 hertz or 60 hertz when you get up to 2.4K. But it has the potential of running something up to 120 hertz and running screens up to 2.4K, we assume above 60 frames a second, which is what the Gear VR standard would be.
I'm just scanning this article. It's also capable of doing its own SLAM.
Yes, so
simultaneous location and mapping.
The Snapdragon chips are, a combination of CPU, GPU, and some signal processors. And so not only is it a faster CPU, it's going to be faster GPU, the new Adreno 620s, I believe, but also has some signal processors that allow it to better process or optimize the processing of inside-out tracking for cameras mounted on the outside to WorldSense, and also cameras on the inside of the headset to do eye tracking as well.
Oh, wow.
So it's hardware optimized, eye tracking, hardware optimized, SLAM tracking, and even hand tracking.
So now, this is something even beyond Oculus's. What is it, like Santa Cruz? What is the upcoming?
Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
How well its SLAM works and how well its foveated rendering and its eye tracking works, no one knows.
Yeah.
And even if they say it's optimized, there's a lot more than just saying optimized hardware for it to have it actually be a usable and a useful feature.
And who knows if anyone's developing content that takes advantage of any of that stuff.
Exactly. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason Oculus says that foveate rendering is a hard problem to solve, and current eye tracking methodologies are not optimized to make it a comfortable experience. But the fact that Qualcomm is making mobile chips that are targeted for VR headsets and AR headsets, and the fact that the Oculus Go headset is 2 generations behind gives me a little bit of worry.
I'm not worried. Come on, you get what you get, man. It's $200.
Yeah.
For the Go. I mean, that's all that matters. It's gonna play movies. It's gonna play your basic VR titles. It's gonna do everything people expect for $200.
How much do you want to have Jeremy work at Best Buy that the week it comes out, and just throwing Oculus Goes at people? You get what you get.
I can't wait to see what developers, whether it's HTC or hardware makers, do with this chipset beyond what the reference headset can do. And I'm interested to see what the reference headset can do and what demos they've built up for it, because they want to sell chipsets. They want to sell these Snapdragon 435s, 845s to hardware makers.
So how long does it usually take after the announcement for them to show up in products?
I mean, the reference headset means that they can manufacture these, Qualcomm can, and people can slap their own labels on them.
Yeah.
But our experience with reference designs like that is that they're not going to be great experiences because they're not built from the ground up, along with the software makers, as full platforms.
I thought usually we get the announcements of the chip following them having sold off the processor to a company that's already going to integrate it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a long time before we see these 845 chips in some type of headset. But Oculus Go, I mean, now we're looking forward to Oculus Go 2, right? If they can get it to that low price point. I know that, from a getting chicken and egg standpoint and getting users adopted into VR, $200 is a hugely compelling price point, and this is a necessary product to get people consuming 360 video and consuming rotationally tracked headsets. But I hope that Facebook is looking at this chip and not going for lowest common denominator for something like Santa Cruz, because that is going to be a 6-DoF tracking system. That's going to be a higher end system, we presume. And don't just have a product for the low end. Make your investment pay off for those Gear VR titles. But I would love to see, maybe not Oculus Go 2, but Santa Cruz take advantage of the processing power and put better hardware.
I certainly hope Oculus Go is the last non-6-DoF product that Oculus makes.
Yeah. 3DoF is also an experience you can have right now for Olympics in VR. And Kishore, I heard you tried some of that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I borrowed a friend's Gear VR and tried it out. It basically works with Daydream, or Cardboard, Gear VR, or Windows Mixed Reality. And I tried out, Cardboard's not a good way to experience much of anything.
Yeah.
So I went to Gear VR. It is awful.
What about it so bad?
I mean, it is awful for many things. I mean, we can complain about 360 video generally, but this goes beyond that. Like, the views in some of these sports, like downhill skiing, are nauseating. Or they've set up some sort of VR view where they just basically whiz by you.
Are you on the helmet of the skier?
No, but you're basically at like a corner where the skiers are passing by you.
Okay.
And they're whizzing by you so fast that like it's hard to process any of the information that's coming at you. The app is buggy, but that's fine. That's not a big deal.
Do you know if it's stereo or is it monoscopic? 360?
It looks like 360 video.
Yeah, but is it stereo or monoscopic?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's just it makes me wonder, like, every year there's a big sporty event, like, check this out in VR. The Verge wrote an article where it's like, we need to cut this out because it's turning this broad swath of people off to the technology.
Yeah.
Because it's so awful that it doesn't add anything to the experience, because none of those experiences do you need to turn your head to see anything more about the content that you're seeing.
No, you might as well just let the cameraman do it.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're trained, they're right there, they have the ability to do it. So, have you tried it out at all?
No.
You guys tried it out with the Olympics?
No.
I hope it goes away until we can get something interesting where you're either fully there's a camera on a contestant's head and you're getting a full experience of what it's like.
Yeah.
Like luge, that might be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the other sports, like they were showing curling in VR.
How's that work?
What is this point of this?
Like from the sidelines?
Yeah.
From a top-down view, from the SCOD view,
Yeah.
from the brushes perspective, the broom perspective.
What you really want is a world scanning ability, so that you can just do a 3D camera where you can shoot a space, get everything in 3D, and then allow a VR camera to fly within it and just exist wherever they want. They fly, they can slide, they can walk, they can just watch from the ice. That's what you want. That's coming. You gotta be patient.
Our next VR story is one of these hardware prototypes that gets me as excited about experiments in VR. There's a hardware developer who is making a experimental attachment to the Vive controller that adds simulated weight to objects. It's called Nyoibo, and I'm maybe pronouncing that incorrectly, but it's based on a Dragon Ball Z reference. The character Goku has an extendable staff. The Monkey King has a staff that grows and shrinks. And basically, this is a mechanical attachment to the top of your Vive controller that unfolds itself or can vibrate or can shift its weight based on what the software Unity plugin essentially tells it. So the demo, there's a video of this, shows basically, you're picking up something like an Uzi, and then the mechanics on top of your Vive controller start shaking based on when you fire the Uzi. But if you pick up like a longer weapon where it's maybe more front heavy, like a assault rifle or something, then the attachment extends out beyond the front of your Vive controller and then shifts the center of balance to the front of the controller, so it feels like you're picking up a heavier object.
That's neat.
Yeah.
It's not something that would ever be a part of a commercial product.
No.
But
it could be for location-based VR,
I suppose, yeah.
right? Limited quantity, B2B type things. And then our last VR story is a new release that we'll be talking about on this week's episode of Projections, which is Brass Tactics, an Oculus Studios game that's one of the first AAA RTS games in VR.
Yeah. I am not an RTS player, so I will just say that right out of the gate, but it's a good game. It's a good game.
Yeah, we'll talk about more in depth on Projections, so you can watch it there. But it's available. There's also Brass Tactics Arena, which is free for people to try out. But there's also the full game, which has a full single player complement. Yeah. I think that does it for this week's episode.
We haven't tested anything last week or this week, probably the week before. You want to talk about what we've been testing?
Well, we can. You've been testing something?
Yeah,
let's do it. All right. There's one more segment.
This week. Hey, what have you guys been testing?
I got nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Adafruit has this cool product, and it's called the Circuit Playground. There's a newer one. They came out with one, like a year and a half ago, and then more recently, in the past, several months, they came out with a new one. Circuit, I think it's Playground Express. Oh God, where'd my web browser go? And it's super cheap. It's like $20. And it's made to help teach people. It's $25. The new one is, and it's made as like an introductory, piece of hardware if you want to learn to tinker, learn to make, learn to code, and it's criminally easy to make this thing do things. I got one for my 11-year-old who's never touched Arduino, an IDE, in his lifetime. He does have experience with Scratch, which is a graphical drag and drop programming interface developed at MIT. Well, not only is the Circuit Playground Express compatible with Arduino code and Python, it has like a drive. You log in, you just type your Python, and it can run. It's also compatible with this Scratch-like interface, which I think was developed at Microsoft, and Adafruit uses strictly for the Circuit Playground Express. So you plug the thing into your computer, you then go to the website on Adafruit, and you drag and drop your hardware commands, you type in your variables. I said, look, see if you can make a security motion detector. I left the room, and within like 2 minutes, he'd never touched anything. He had a thing working where when he picked it up, it sounded an alarm and the lights flashed. And it wasn't a prefab program.
That's cool.
So anybody, like frustratingly so, can make, for anyone who's done actual programming, it can make what they want on this thing. It has lights, sound, buttons, temperature sensor, an IR sensor, and receiver, so you can have two of them and they can communicate with each other. It has a battery port, has touchable contacts that do capacitive touch. It's got, did I say like a real speaker? It's super cool. It's for $25. It just does so many things, and it's so easy to make things with. It's super cool. So I just wanted to say, nice job, Adafruit. You put programmers out of business.
I've been trying out the Arlo, which is a wireless camera home security system.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of comments I think I talked about this a year and some ago, and there's a lot of tested listeners that were big proponents of just wired camera solutions, and I'm finding that to be a big problem so far with the wireless camera solutions is maintaining connection and uptime as a neighborhood evolves, because it's one thing to install it and everything's working and all the channels are fine and even adapt to some of the regular interference, but as you go forward, you're investing in a system for a number of years, and I'm really curious how it's going to hold up to that. But Arlo's been interesting because it's like just one, it's a simple interface and it has, extensible camera system.
It has like a web-based DVR, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's good.
But I had tried out the Ring, and I hate Ring.
Okay.
Yeah, like Ring is just because it's a subscription model. It's the responsiveness of the app, because it's meant to replace your front doorbell. The responsiveness of the app to actually answer the door as you would is so slow.
Wow, you want zero latency there,
or at least something that's a reasonable amount of latency.
I've been watching reviews of the Mavic Air, man.
you should get one.
I don't know. It looks pretty good.
You should get one.
I mean, you should get one.
No.
Tested should get one.
No.
Oh, all right.
All right. That does it this week for This Is Only a Test. We'll be back next week with more talk. Will y'all be back next week?
I will not be here next week.
You can be traveling.
I'll be on the slopes in Tahoe.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I thought Amazon was bringing you in to give a pep talk to its workers. What's coming up on Tested?
We have, I talked about this on Still Entitled, but our video of our amazing boat journey, our boat ride, will be up on the site tomorrow, and projections as well. And
I feel like we've oversold that at this point.
Oh, you'll see. Once wait till you see the video.
I'm not in it, am I?
No, you're in it.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. I have decided. And some stuff from Adam next week. We've been shooting a bunch of one-day builds, so we're wrapping those up, and you guys can expect to see those on the site in the next few weeks or so.
USA women bringing home tonight against those evil Canadians. Let's go.
Hi there, I didn't see you.
Tested. The average length of time it takes a mammal to empty their bladder is 23 seconds. From the tiniest mouse up to the largest whale.
I did not know that.
23 seconds.
Wow. Did you learn that on Planet Earth too?
Tested.
So I timed myself last week after you played that outro, and I was at 29 seconds.
Whoa. Above average.
Yeah, well, it just shows you how much liquid I drink during the podcast.
Yeah, I'm going to test that now.